Hello everyone, I'm Skari, and today we're going to be talking about the different missions in the Leviathan Tournament Pack.
The Dark King.
So the way this is going to work is we're going to be talking about the different missions from A to O. I'm going to go through every single mission one at a time, and I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks. The mission we're going to be looking at today is Priority Targets, Hidden Supplies, and Search and Destroy Deployment, or Mission B. And there you have it. We're back with Mission B. Now, of course, this is Priority Targets and Search and Destroy. Now, how do we score points in this mission? So, Priority Targets, you score 5 points for holding one objective, 5 points for holding two objectives at the start of your command phase, even on battle round number 5, which is not something that happens normally. And then you get 5 points per objective you control at the end of the game. And that's your and your opponent, which does mean if you score on turn 5 a 10 and then score 15 for holding 3, you can score 25 primary points on the last turn. That is massive in this mission. Now, in this mission, you only need to hold 2 objectives to get 10 points, basically for the entire game. Now, because of hidden supplies, there are lots of objectives, especially in no man's land. You're still in the search and destroy, which is your table quarters. Now, this means that this area here, as you can see, is very important. Just around this area, right outside your deployment zone, because you have access to that objective, this objective, this objective, and this objective here. Denying your opponent's primary means that if you want to successfully deny your opponent, you have to basically drop them down to a 5 every turn. But even if you did that turn 2, turn 3, and turn 4, they get 15 points there, right, over the course of 3 turns. And then on turn 5, they could get a 10 and then a 15, which does mean that they would go up to 30, 40 points on primary. So that is a great way to stop people from scoring primary, is drop them down to a 5 if at all possible. If you drop them down to a 5 only 2 turns, then even if they max out, they can only get 45 points on primary. So that's the kind of math that I'm looking at, is like trying to deny your opponent's primary of points that they just cannot get back. If at any point in time you can drop them to a 0 in this mission, that is very powerful, considering there are so many points to be gained at the end of the game. It also means, as a player, you can be a lot more defensive. You know, holding your home objective is 5 points, but then you only need to hold one other objective. It could be anywhere on the board to get your second 5 points. So you can sort of set up, you know, I love setting up on these two personally, but you could do that one, but it's very close to your opponent's deployment zone, right? So you could set up on 2 of them, you know, potentially that one if you like going this way, for example, and getting your 10 points every single turn. The key to doing that is not only holding it, but sort of like putting the pressure on your opponent and pushing them back so they can't get to your objective. Now, they might be able to deep strike and things like that, but if you kind of hold your board back here, you can actually screen relatively easily. 9 inches up, create a screen, 9 inches, create another screen, 9 inches that way. And you don't need too many units to sort of screen out the entirety of a backboard, especially when it becomes hammer and anvil like this. So that's a general philosophy here. It's hold, like you could defend, you need to deny. If you can deny your opponent and bring them down to 5 multiple turns, that's probably one of the best things you can do. And of course, try not to get pinned in your zone, because if you get pinned in your zone, you only have access to one objective. You drop down to 5 points. Like that's like worst case scenario in this kind of mission, especially with this deployment. You need to kind of push out and make sure that you have play in the edges of the board. Or if you're like a more aggressive army, you can kind of go straight into the middle and from this triangle sort of like push out that way or push out this way or push out into there, right? So if you've got some like heavy, hard-hitting elements, you can afford to do that. You know, Land Raider Crusader in the middle, then threatens that, or Land Raider Redeemer threatens that. Of course, terrain will sort of shift how you sort of like approach the positioning. But in general, that's the kind of thing you want to look at is, you know, without terrain, like this is distilled to its basic elements, you know, the table. How does this work? So I hope you found that useful. Let me know with a comment down below if it's worked for you so far, because Priority Targets is one of those missions that you can score lots of primary points late game, which forces you to be a little more aggressive if you want to deny, or it becomes a game which is more about really trying to score your secondary points, right? Because if you can both score a high number of primary points in a game, you definitely want to try and like prevent your opponent's secondary scoring, because that's another place that's going to have a big impact. Now, this mission does benefit armies that have lots of little units. Like Drukhari love this mission. Being able to send 10 OC to multiple objectives multiple times, just 10 OC, 10 OC, 10 OC, like in little 5-man units to deny points, to contest points, to get in the way, to move block, and then still have enough units at the end of the game to potentially hold your maximum 15 at the end as well. Really comes into play. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, don't forget there's other videos in this series on the tournament mission pack. And there you have it, Mission B. And there you have it. That's today's mission. So if you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. And of course, the Dark Kid. Bye, everybody.